Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking this time out to join us today for Executive Insights by Mediacorp webinar, Enabling Women Entrepreneurs. My name is Otelli Edwards. I present and I produce news on CNA, and I'm going to be your host for today. So today's session basically is the second of a three-part Women in Business series where our trailblazing entrepreneurs, they're going to share with us all sorts of challenges they face when they're looking to build their startup. And they're also going to be offering us insights on how to champion this entrepreneurial mindset. So let's introduce our speakers. First up, we have Caecilia Chu. She's co-founder and CEO from YouTrip. So YouTrip is basically a regional financing technology company that's dedicated to creating next-gen digital banking experience in Southeast Asia. So her fintech experiences prior to YouTrip include positions at Lufax, which is China's leading online wealth management platform, and as well as QFPay, which is a mobile payments company backed by Sequoia China. So Caecilia, she is really very accomplished. She made it to the global list of top 50 financial technology CEOs in 2021. She was also ranked in the top 10 fintech leaders for 2 years running by MAS and Singapore Fintech Association. And just this year, Caecilia was recognized as the Tech Leader of the Year by the Singapore Computer Society. Congratulations, Caecilia. That's quite a lot of accolades. So if you've got any tech questions, you can always ask Caecilia. And the next up, we've got Shufen Go, principal and co-founder from R3. Now, R3 is an independent global marketing consultancy working with a dozen of the top 20 global marketers, and we've got offices in Asia, North America, and Europe. And for Shufen, she has more than, I believe, 2 decades of experience helping brands boost, the efficiency of their marketing through all sorts of agency partnerships. And some of the big brands Shufen would have worked on would include Coca-Cola, Kimberly-Clark, Unilever, and Mastercard, and the list runs on. So as part of her commitment to boost marketing in Asia Pacific in this region, Shufen also serves as the president of the Association of Advertising and Marketing Singapore. She's also marketing advisor to the National Gallery of Singapore. You're also a mentor to European startups venturing to Southeast Asia. Very, very busy woman. And on top of that, she's also the co-author of 3 books on marketing, leadership, and digital transformation. And last but not least, we have the youngest of the lot, Genevieve Lee, Jen for short. She's a co-founder of Sourbombe Artisanal Bakery. So I would say, not many 25-year-olds can say they actually run their own bakery, but Jen, she's exceptionally talented. She is the runner-up of MasterChef Singapore's first season. She started her own home-based business. That was 2 years ago, called Sourbombe. What is Sourbombe? I understand it's a modern take on the humble donut. It's made with sourdough. And Jen graduated from the Culinary Institute of America, and having worked with established restaurants locally and abroad, Jen likes the pretty creative with all her presentation, taking all the traditional recipes and taking it up a notch with all sorts of ingredients, cooking methods, and presentation. So it's so wonderful to have you here with us, ladies from vastly different sectors. We are going to be having fun today. And just before we jump into the questions for our panel, I just want to, we're going to have a poll. We're going to bring up a poll just to get a sense of how many of you in this room are entrepreneurs or aspiring to be one. Yeah. So the poll, as you can see, do you own a company, business, or a brand? Yes. Not yet. No. We're going to get the results in a short bit. But so, ladies and gentlemen, as what Jade mentioned earlier, at any point, should you have any questions, please do include them in the Q&A. Yeah, so that there's a Q&A button you'll see at the bottom of your screen. Any questions you have. So the whole point of today is really, this is like, I hope you have your coffee because I have my coffee here. So the whole point of today's session is really just to understand the mindset of, these entrepreneurs. And look, we've got the results. So do you own a company, business, or brand? A third of you says yes. Good to know. Not yet, 12%. And no for the rest of you guys. So good. Okay, so we're getting a sense of this, of you guys tuning in. Okay, so we're gonna kickstart. First up, I'm just gonna do a bit of a backgrounder, okay, to our speakers and our panelists and the driving force behind starting a business. Now, Shufen, let's just kick things off with you, right? All 3 were started in, was it 2002? And it grew into this, respected global marketing consultancy with teams based all around the world. for you, when was that pivotal aha moment when you say, I'm going to do this?
I think it is timing, because I was doing very well and enjoying my work very much in the advertising agency. But I also did something quite unexpected in that I became a mother. And, those of you who are familiar with, life in the advertising agency would know that it's probably not the best environment at that time. This was 20 years ago. When you are kind of like middle management, media to senior management, but you're working like a dog and you're working not hours that are family friendly. So there was definitely that push factor that affects the timing. And the other factor was really, I was always, even though after graduation, I worked in corporates, but I knew that I'm always curious about businesses and what business I can start, much more than reading books about how do I get ahead, in the corporate world. So I think deep inside, I know that I love problem solving and I love to find a market niche or a need for a business. So when I was approached by my co-founder to say, hey, you know what, you spent your last 6 years, right, which I was the new business director, business development, as well as running a few key accounts in the agency. You spend all those time pitching and growing business. How about we start this consultancy, providing quite a niche marketing service to help companies identify the process of, finding the best external partners to support you in your branding and marketing and how to pay them fairly and competitively, all kinds of benchmarks. So it appealed a lot to me because of what I saw the market was lacking. So even though this service did not exist in Asia, so I did a couple of foolish things, but one is really, brave enough to step out of my monthly salary, and then also starting not just a business, but a pioneering business, right? But I guess, timing was, I felt I needed control of my career and my time back. So that was why at 30 years old, I was foolish enough to do that.
Well, your foolishness has turned out really successful for you, so not that foolish after all. And
I think I went in prepared to fail. That was the one thing. I literally told my husband he's got a good job in the corporate world. I said, you know what, you need to stick around and, make the money, for 1 year. I'm not going to draw salary, I would stop shopping.
Well, behind every successful woman is also a man behind.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, this partnership thing, I mean, obviously having a spouse that understands, willing to work that year while you venture out is definitely a perk. And Jen, for you, what's interesting also for you is, I believe you started your business it was just like, is it 3 people you mentioned, like yourself, your boyfriend, and a friend? And the whole F&B industry, it's crazy competitive, huge risk of burnout. You started Sourbombe just 2 years ago when you were 23 years old, right? After competing in MasterChef Singapore. So firstly, it's very brave because you're starting a business smack in the middle of a pandemic. How did your experience at MasterChef firstly influence your decision to be your own boss? And you're so young then, you're still so young now. Is it just the fact of being young and fearless that you don't even think about failing?
Okay. I think there's a few parts to this. I think my whole life has been quite colorful, and I tried making it colorful. I think I live by like one motto. It's like, if I'm not interesting, then why do I live for? So like, I always try to keep my life a unique experience. Like, I don't want to be in like the herd of people. So as young as like 16 years old, I was out in farmers market selling cakes and everything. And I think a lot of my successes is like owed to my parents, because my parents are in the F&B industry. And I basically grew up, seeing the whole industry. Like my dad has like a 50-year-old business. It's still running now. And he started his business when he was 14 years old. and
Wow.
he was a boss like when he was 14. So I guess like I don't fall so far from the tree, I guess, but it's because of him that I saw everything. I saw all the bad side. I saw all the good side as well. We have days where we were begging people for money, like we went into like almost bankruptcy. And then there are days where like my dad would drive like a BMW and my friends would be like, oh my goodness, like you're so rich and everything. But actually, we are all in a business, and business is volatile.
Yeah.
It's ups and downs, some days are good. And it's not even days, it's like years of like hardship, years of success. And even when he gained his success, it's not a sure win. Like 5 years down the road, you never know. And that is how volatile a business could be. So actually, from very young, I always told my parents, no, I want to be like a doctor or engineer. I want like a government job so that I don't have the same like issues as you guys. But I just can't, like I tried, like I took biomedical science. I wanted to be a dentist. I really went down the path. But I kept feeling this emptiness. I was just like, there's just something that I'm missing, here. And I always felt very like, a bit like sad and depressive, like, because I didn't know what I'm working for. And my outlet is actually to start my own business. So when I have my own business, I feel the most happy. I feel like I'm living life to the fullest. I'm just like taking caution into the wind, throwing caution into the wind, and just seeing what happens, right? And there's something fun about doing that. And I think being young, you are kind of like people cut you a lot of slack. And even if you fail, you still have many years to like recuperate. Like you're not, like too late in life where you're just like, oh shit, I fail now, then I have a family, like what Shufen said, I'm actually, when I heard that she started her business when she had a family, I was like, oh my goodness, like, I could not imagine it for myself. I always tell my boyfriend, who has been dating for like 5 years now, I'm like, I'm not gonna marry until 30 years old. Like, I want to do my stuff first and then do life with you. Yeah, so I started very young, had many failures. So 16 years old, wasn't like I earned like 500 a day. I'm like happy already, but it's actually quite little, in comparison with what we have now. Like it's very simple joys that keeps you going, but it wasn't successful. So I also told myself, I'm not going to start a business if I'm not famous, because the marketing aspect, the getting the crowd in, getting like your brand known is super difficult. And it doesn't mean like you have good marketing means you will be successful. A lot of things play a part lah. Yeah. So after MasterChef was actually a very big turning point, because previously I was just like, no, I don't want to do business. I don't want to open a shop because I know how brutal it could be. But after MasterChef, I saw this like opportunity. I was like, hey, people know my name. People know what I do. They know that I'm good at what I'm doing. And everything just came easily after MasterChef. I always like to say, before MasterChef, I was knocking on people's door, begging them to try my stuff. Now it's like, people call me and like, they'll be like, hey, do you want to work with me? I want to do collaborations. And to actually go through the whole process and have this comparison is just so eye-opening, and it's just so like liberating in a way. I'm like, wow, I'm finally seen, and I have more faith and more guts to like do my own business.
And you're incredibly mature for your age. I mean, like, I'm not worried. Even if you get knocked up tomorrow and you become a mom, you'll handle it just fine.
Yeah.
Actually, like I always wondered like how mothers do it. Well,
I can tell you, I can share with you, but I will encourage you not to delay it. I'm a biologist by training, so I'm very practical. Your body is better.
Well, speaking of being practical and all of that, I want to move on to a totally different industry from baking. Caecilia is in fintech, and earlier on Jen was saying you would absolutely not do anything that won't interest you. And I imagine fintech is sort of like, it's an untraditional choice. You'd imagine for a woman, because it seems like it's one of those industries that's heavily dominated by males. But there has been, rapid growth in fintech in recent years, and Singapore is obviously the global fintech hub. So for you, Caecilia, I mean, is this an area that a natural progression from your previous job that it was just easy to make that switch?
Yeah, so I think for me, I was hearing the amazing story from my fellow panelists, and I thought it is true. I think entrepreneurship, it's a deeply personal choice, and it also related to how I was brought up. So my father was a postman, and my mother was a kindergarten teacher. So we used to live paycheck to paycheck. And I remember when I was 5, my dad just finished his chartered accountant qualification exams. And we knocked on the door of every single bank to get a small bank loan for him to actually start a accounting outfit. And obviously, we got rejected by all the banks. And, at that time, I thought, my dad was the most hardworking person, the most honest person, great work ethics, but why? So growing up, I have this worldview where established financial institutions, to a mass market consumer, we are always underserved, because frankly speaking, the banks are always looking to move up market. They always try to find the more affluent person who have more money in the bank and buy more products from them. And so, part of me was, I spent time in financial services almost all my life since 2005 when I came out of college. And about 10 years ago, I have been in technology companies in China, in the US. And and I felt that, if I get a chance, which I do now, it's to really build a financial institutions that for once do not segregate customers by how much money they can show up in the bank, and truly build a product and service that is transparent, that is fair, and really accessible. And that is really the founding philosophy here with YouTrip. Where if you look at our product today, it's always, give you the best value. It's always giving you the best exchange rates wherever you go, whatever and however you want to spend. And also we believe with technology, we can give you something so easy and so convenient to use that it requires no education. Sometimes people talk about financial literacy and all that, but, if it is a truly good product, what we believe is you fire up the app, you know exactly what to do with it within seconds, and no entry barrier. It's truly no fee for the customers. And we've somehow find a way to make it sustainable by charging the merchants on the platform. And so, I would say this is really the founding philosophy when we first started. And, we are very grateful. Today, 1 in 5 Singaporean millennials are using us. And, that number is growing. We are very excited with travel coming back and great tailwinds in the business that we're seeing for the next few quarters.
My kids are using your product. They were the ones that introduced me to it. It was launched. So congratulations.
Big thank you. Oh, big thank you. Oh, big thank you to your children as well. Yeah, huge thank you.
Just before we get on with the other questions, I just want to do a shout out to our viewers. If you've got any questions, just fire them away, right? As you can tell, our panelists, they're very open-minded. Feel free to ask anything and they'll take it on. So now I just want to talk about raising capital, right? I mean, what sort of hurdles or biases in your experience when it comes to raising capital to start a business? I mean, how do you even get enough money? Just feel free to jump in. Jen, you want to try first?
I think you guys have more to share, because I mean, earlier, maybe I'll just maybe comment and share my experience as a services business. And I think a lot of, if you're starting a business that the banks don't understand, because there are not a lot of them, like I say, R3 was a pretty niche, not just service, but consulting proposition, right? I think it doesn't matter whether you are male or female entrepreneur, it's hard to get a loan, right? So I think you need to have a stubborn conviction to what you're doing. And, so I had to sacrifice shopping, latte, and live well below my means for many years to fund the business. So R3 was very much self-funded for the early years, right? It is tough because if you are very asset-light, when we have no assets, it's people, and your biggest cost would be your staff cost for our case. and rental, you know, they don't, loans are not going to be easy to come by.
So, you know, I very much agree with what Shufen has shared. You know, actually, the truth is a business with very low cash burn, ideally profitable, cash flow generative, is actually the most investable business. Everything else, no. So, you know, one thing is, you know, let's not be carried away by all these, you know, hype around startups and, you know, Series A, B, C funding. That is not what to be celebrated, right? So at the end of the day, business is about being self-sustainable, being cash flow generative, being profitable. That is the true angle. So, you know, I think sometimes we see a lot of excitement around these crazy amount of fundraising, but that is not the ends. That is truly only the means to discover the ends. The ends is to have a business like Shufen's. You know, I think having said that, I think finding money is always difficult. It's difficult when you started out, when you have nothing too much to prove, but it's also difficult after you have started and you may have something to prove, because, you know, the amounts, you know, the kind of institutions or non-institutions, investors that you may want to bring on board is completely different. So at every stage, it is difficult. So I very much agree with my fellow panelists. I think the truth is, business is really about building something that has a business model that can stand on its both feet. I think that's number one. And two is, you know, if you are ever in the position to actually raise money, just expect that it is going to be difficult. And I also think, you know, gender has no parts to play in it. I think, you know, regardless of, you know, how you were brought up, you know, where you're from, I think it's just, it's not an easy task. But I think as an entrepreneur, the job is to keep going. I think the keep going theme, I did hear a few times already this morning, and I very much resonate with it. It's really about keep going and do whatever it takes to survive and thrive.
And Jen, yeah, you are, as you were talking earlier, you're in fact, not only do you have your physical store one, you are also going to set up shop in Jewel, am I right?
Yeah.
So how did you go about getting all that money?
Actually, okay, I think firstly I want to say is that how I started up is not as glamorous as most people would think. So there's 2 years, right? So my first year, I was a home business. And then the second year, I had my shop. So it took me a whole year to actually gather enough cash to open a brick and mortar store. So what I wanted to say is that, especially in F&B, you know, you can start with very little if you are scrappy enough and you don't go too big too fast. Because when you do that, you are not building a sustainable business. Like, you do not know your customers' pool, you do not know what is their spending power, you do not know if your product is even like viable for like a mass market. So I was very insistent on like starting really small. I think we started like with whatever savings we had as a student, and it's not much. I bought like things like induction stoves, you know, like pots and pans, and everything was very manual. Like, yeah, waking up in the ungodly hours of the day, like 4 a.m., just because, right, you don't have an equipment that can control the timings for you. Like, you must go with the product, you must go with the dough and everything. And that is, I guess, the sacrifices that you have to make that is not monetary. And if you can do those sacrifices, I mean, it is a means, right, to an end. Yeah. And then slowly, like when you build your customer base, you build your brand, you slowly grow. And I would say the growth is quite organic, like going into the store itself. And so when we opened, it was like a big hit immediately, like because we had this pool of customers. And because of that, when we opened, we broke even pretty quickly, because people are like, oh my God, Sourbombe is finally opening after a year of hearing about them, you know, only getting like a few slots online, you know, that they are able to get. And we are already working on overdrive, you know. And I guess, again, it's also been 1 year since I've been operating that one store. So I guess it's really time for us to expand to a second one, especially with the increased staff load, increased, I guess, loans that I can get. So those who are F&B, if you do not know, if your business is at least like 1 or 2 years old, you're eligible for a lot of loans. Yeah. So those are things that comes with time. So again, like, I mean, that's why I always tell myself I should start young. Like at a very young age, I always told myself I should do it first because time is on my side right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jen, you have that advantage. Time is on your side, as you're saying. But our viewer, we've got a question from Ian Yo, right? He's 59 years old, and he's saying that a number of friends in the late 50s, early 60s, they're talking about stopping work, starting business, using some money from CPF. But the question is, they have they have a very short runway to rebuild retirement adequacy if they fail. It's a tough challenge because, our panelists, not quite there. But what would your advice be for somebody like that?
I think
Shufen or Caecilia, or jump in.
I think it's also to find the right people. A lot of the times when the right people is on your boat, right, everything goes faster and easier as well. I mean, the same thing, I found my co-founder, which is my business partner, because of the skills that he had. Like, it was skills that I didn't have. A lot of times, like, people go into a business because, oh, I like you, you like me, we can vibe, and then we start a business. Or like, we like the same thing, we do the same thing well, and then we start a business together. Like, let's say I bake well, he cooks well, he bake well, and then we start a business together. But that's not really a viable business because there is so many things surrounding one. There's the financials, there's the back end work, there's like the marketing, and he was a finance graduate, and then he had his own studio. He does photography well, he does videography well, and our brand really popped because of marketing. And in other people's eyes, people think that we pump in like few $100,000s on marketing, when actually we spend none, like $0. Like, it's my business partner's work. Yeah. And I think for those people who are much older, who doesn't have like the huge runway, take the time to find the right people. I think that's super important. Know what you need in your business. And then,
I think the question is the short runway, right? Time, even the sense of, Caecilia, Shufen, what are your thoughts?
I think maybe I'll address the short runway. I think the short runway comes back to also why I think you got to be very clear why you want to start a business at that age, because you got to put in a lot of energy, right? Like, so I think you got to be honest with yourself. Like, is this fulfilling something that you delayed for a long time, or is this an escape, or, is this, or you are so energized and passionate about an idea that you're going to be able to work even harder than you've worked in the last decade, right? Because I think the hard work, I don't think starting a business is a good, I observe a lot of my friends who tried to escape the corporate world, starting a home business or starting small business, and find that, oh my God, it's exhausting and you have no certainty of income, something that you've gotten used to all your life, So I think the uncertainty of being an entrepreneur is often sort of downplayed, but it's actually the reality. You never know if you get paid, you never know if you make money, and you need to be okay with that. And if you can't take that stress, then don't do it, because you will not enjoy the journey, right? So I don't think it's so much the short runway, but it's a very practical sort of like soul searching why and whether you have the energy. And if the answer is still yes, then I think one way to circumvent the short runway is, like Jen was saying, find the right people. It may not be all the people in the 50s, you might need to bring some younger blood, because then you get a much better view of the market as well, a more representative view. Unless you're starting a business for, I don't know, retirement home or like, the silver segment, then maybe it makes sense, but you still need a lot of younger people with more energy to do the execution, right?
So in other words, get a good team of people you have, make sure that you even have enough nest egg, right, basically to sort of retire. So even in the event that things don't work out, you're still quite comfortable. Caecilia, do you have anything else to add on top of that, to that?
Yeah, to me, I think, to me, it's really about, do you have a problem that you really want to solve? Do you have a market gap that you see that you believe is worthwhile in solving, and whether that is important enough for you?
Yeah.
And I say that is because I certainly agree with my fellow panelists that startup is never a linear path. It has tons of ups and downs. And, whether or not you will stay in the game, it really depends on, whether or not that is actually something important for you enough. And I think just starting a business, with the goal of, let's say, having a business on the side or, making some money, I think it would be extremely difficult because, the path it's full of uncertainty and challenges, and you really need to stay in the game no matter what to keep going. So I certainly think that the passion towards solving a problem is a key one. And for us, when I first came back from the US and China from work, the first thing that jumped out to us to me and my co-founder in Southeast Asia, the problem that we find meaningful to solve is that unlike the US and China, Singapore and the broader Southeast Asia, it's really fragmented and made up of many different markets. And so one observation that was interesting is every person and every business are constantly using different currencies from time to time. And every person we talk to, especially in Singapore, pre-COVID and now, is always talking about where I'm going next for my holiday. So, we know that, having grown up in the Asian culture, we know that exchange rates and fees are very important to us. And we thought, if we can use technology to always give you the best fees, to always give you the best rates, and to make it super simple to use, we believe, we will have a business from there. And I think solving that fragmentation and multi-currency problem was where we started. And I think, having gone through so many years of iteration, I still think, having that passion, it's key for staying in the game, and it is never a linear path.
No, those are just really, insightful stuff. We've got another question here from Chris Pock, actually. He says, do you face any imposter syndrome or symptom rather during your journey as an entrepreneur, and how do you overcome that?
I love that question. Personally, I think even the smartest, the most capable entrepreneurs I've met in my life, and even my most capable team members, in my eyes, they are everything. They are the star. They're super accomplished, always confident. But sometimes when I talk to them, everyone has this kind of insecurity, occasionally lack of confidence in handling, certain situation and different circumstance. And my thought is, number one is to have that awareness that, this emotion that you have and you're not alone. Actually, I would say 100% of the people I've met have it. I certainly have it from time to time. And I think number two is truly have courage, right? So I think sometimes in the news, people start to sometimes idolize the founder, idolize the entrepreneur, but, it is not like they are superhero or they have some, kind of secret sauce or even superpower behind them. I think they're just, human beings, and we all have, our worries. We all have our fair share of even fear, where sometimes you feel fear in your heart when there's so much uncertainty and things you don't know how to do, but always have courage. And that will be one thing that I would say is the true north when I think about my own journey.
I think for me, it's a really good question, and I always thought, okay, I'm very passionate about what I do, and therefore I think it always projects, I think, a lot of confidence, and I have to believe in this thing that nobody has done before, right, in this Asia, and trying to convince everyone that they need my service and I'll help them solve a problem. And I was very, very focused on that. And I think when R3 gained a lot of recognition in the market and the status of the company, and therefore the co-founder, right, myself, got, I think, validated. when I was approached to say, hey, you know what, why don't you be the next president for the industry association, right? This was before AMS came together, the two largest association in Singapore. I was previously serving in the Institute of Advertising Singapore. So when the president then, Terry O'Connor, said, you know what, you're the best person to step up and be kind of like the first female president ever for the associations in Singapore. And I was like, wow, but Terry, you were the CEO of Courts, you know, like you've got so much money, everyone's going to listen to you. Like I'm nothing, right? Like I'm like this small consultancy business. So I doubted myself. That was the only time I go like, are you sure? You know, so I said, I need to think about this, right? So this is kind of like the whole industry, is not just my own business. So I think at that point in time, I had some insecurity. But what got me over it was, you know what, I've got to do something about this thing that annoys me, that there are so many amazing women that I've worked with in the industry, but why aren't there enough female that make it to the top, right? So if I don't say yes, I'm just adding to that problem. And I have to do that, you know, so I had to do something uncomfortable because I don't really like to be in the limelight, you know. That's something I have to do as part of my job, but I'm actually a really private person. I don't like, the eyes on me. So I have to get over that, right? But I think once you push yourself to something uncomfortable, you will realize that, hey, you know what? You know, it's okay. You know, it helps people to know that when you share your story, when you become like a role model for someone, that's great, you know, and more of us should do that. Yeah.
So Jen, I'm wondering, do you ever worry that, you know, it will come to a point where people just don't want to eat Sourbombe anymore and they move on to the next big trend in food, you know, which we see is quite common because, you know, the people here, they're how would I say, they're liking things. It's just always moving on to the next big thing.
Like it's like fast fashion, right? Yeah, it's like fast food. I mean, coming back to that point, I really agree with Caecilia that we are all humans.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy for a lot of like employees or people who take salaries, right, to just see us as somebody out there that I cannot touch, I cannot talk to, I cannot empathize with. But what is reality is that the boss or whoever's the owner is always giving 200, 300%. And a lot of times they don't see like a lot of our hard work as well. And they just expect, you know, like they should do it because you're the boss, right? They should care about your business because you're the boss, you know, but they don't really see us as like equals. And in a way, it's also bad because when you're suffering, like who do you tell? Like when they're suffering, they tell you. Then where do you go to? Like, you know, like if you do not have a partner in life, you do not have a good family system, who do you go to? And I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about because we all want to be the big boss, right? We all want to show that we're confident. We all want to set the expectation that we are untouchables. Like we are there and you cannot say no to me. But then at the same time, like now I'm also learning, you know, with a very big team, I'm learning to be a bit more vulnerable, a bit more frank and truthful to everyone around me. Like there's nothing wrong to say, hey, you know, I feel a little burnout. Like honestly, could you just help me out in this instance, you know? And I think it is accumulated from a lot of my experiences as a young entrepreneur. Like people would not take you seriously. I mean, slightly also because of gender. Like I'm a girl, I'm super young, and people just look at me as a Xiao Ming Mei, especially at 17 years old when I'm just starting my own, like a small cafe in school. No one takes you seriously. They think that, oh, you're just playing, you're just doing this for fun. But to you, like, you know, you give your everything. And I think I've built up like a very strong front, like over the years. And what I see now is that it backfires because I'm not vulnerable to my people and they think that I can handle everything. But sometimes it's like, you know, like we need that communication. We need to let people know that, hey, we are humans too. Yeah. The thing about people not wanting Sourbombe, of course, it's always on my mind, you know, it is my whole livelihood, you know, like that's how I keep the business alive, help to pay off my bills, pay off my people. Yes, I'm always thinking about it. And I always like to be 5 steps ahead. And I always like to work in like a corporate manner. So if let's say Christmas is coming up, now I'm already doing the final, you know, the pictures of photographing, the marketing for it already. And people always ask me, oh, it's still so early, like, you know, but I'm just like that, but that is the name of the game. You have to be prepared. You must be prepared for everything. And I think as a F&B as well, a lot of highs, right? And then a lot of lows. Always think of the lows. Like the highs come, great, it's like a bonus. Like, great, you know, you're doing something good, continue doing it. If your brand is ever changing, it's very good, better than being stagnant. I think one case study that I can talk about is like, you know, those egg tarts, the cheese baked tarts. So they were very, very hyped at first. Like they were hyped for like maybe a few months, and then the business just went down. And why? It's because there's no innovation. There is no evolving, you know, menus. There is no chefs that actually put everything into the business and be like, hey, we need to keep improving ourselves. But for me, it's like from day one, I told myself, never slack. Like never
slack. Speaking of which, this really ties in very nicely with Melissa Hill's question. Okay, now we know never slack. That's one of the qualities you should have. But she's asking, right, what are the top 3 qualities or the most important 3 habits to have in order to be a successful entrepreneur? So maybe Caecilia, you want to jump in there, top 3.
So the first one is really discipline. And I think, you know, there has also been a recurring theme here on the panel where, you know, as an entrepreneur, we are expected and we will be working 200% of what we can give. But also, I think another one that I wanted to highlight is take your work seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. So, you know, I think in a marathon, right, there are good and there are rainy and there are sunny days. And while we always give our 200% into what we do, sometimes, you know, when things don't go as well, try to, you know, tell a joke about it, you know, have a laugh about it, not just with yourself, but also, you know, perhaps with your team. I think you know, that is part of the journey and part of growing up in leading a business.
I think I'll just add one more. I think certainly from my own personal experience, it's really relevant to what I do for my clients. I mean, stay curious and keep learning. And there's so many ways you can learn actually around, from people, from books. You know, I mean, I read a lot and I get a lot of inspiration from reading about areas that I don't know about. And I try to make sure I read about something different each time. And I think that's, you got to elevate yourself from just the day-to-day operations of your business, which is very obviously taxing and can be all you do. But if you want a longer runway and you need to think about the future, you got to give yourself time to anticipate what's coming up that nobody else is thinking about, that they should be thinking about. You know, I mean, I say to my team, right, like we work with marketing teams, those are my clients. I say our job is to solve their problem now, but also anticipate what's something that they need to be thinking about in the horizon. And we want to be that valuable partner to help them succeed. You know, our job is to make our clients successful, make them look good. That's what we do, right? And make their business thrive. So, but they can be so consumed in their everyday operations that they don't have the bandwidth, you know, to, you know, after the internal bureaucracy and getting their marketing campaigns out, they are not thinking about what they should be thinking about in you know, 2 years time or 3 years time. So that's our job. So in order for us to thrive, I think we need to, and that, I think that feels that when you're learning, you grow, right? And I think that's that's important in your own personal growth as well as the business.
So this question, perhaps, if you could, considering everything that you have learned and you've shared, all of you have shared quite a fair bit from starting a business, managing it, and being a respected professional, whether you're young or not that young. If you could go back in time, okay, this is the key question. What would you say to your younger self as she's about to embark on this journey? Let's start with you first, Jen.
Oh no.
Or if you need some time to think, Caecilia, jump in.
To be completely honest, I have never regretted anything. Like everything that I did, whether it failed or was successful, were all building blocks to who I am today. So even if I made a mistake, I'll just take it as a life lesson. That's it. Like I wouldn't tell myself to do anything differently because I kind of like where I am now. And also like I appreciated like every single experience. It made me empathetic. It made me understand people more. It made me a better boss in a way because I've been there, done that for like a lot of the things. Yeah.
Okay, so what about you, Caecilia? I mean, anything, or you are also like every mistake is a building block to being better at what you do?
I wish I could be as accomplished as Jen when I was 25, but I'm too late for that. So I recently did this thought exercise to go back in time, maybe when I meet my 25-year-old self, who is not as accomplished. What I would kind of warn this person of the journey ahead. Actually, I felt that all my life I've been in a way aimed to be an achiever. So I've always been sprinting and trying to hit goals after goals. Actually, I would tell myself to slow down, relax, and let go. I think it is to really remind myself that while we wanted to achieve all the goals and all the personal and professional goals really, but I think having the mindset of enjoying the journey it's key. And so I would actually tell myself to slow down and let go and try to take pictures, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. I don't think I would have done anything differently, but I think I would tell my 25-year-old that maybe sometimes, okay, my nature is quite activist in nature, right? I feel passionately about equality, for everyone, and therefore I'm very big on leveling up for women and all that. I would tell my 25-year-old then that, maybe chill a little, because sometimes when you're too passionate, you rub some people the wrong way, but just say it's okay, and don't take it too personally. I mean, just to give some context, I think you guys, a few years ago, there was a very big thing around Me Too campaign, and in the advertising world, there's definitely lots of Me Too moments in the industry. And coming from a background that wasn't very exposed to that, I just thought, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I felt like I was the only female that was angry about it and was willing to put my foot down about this. And I was quite disappointed with the lack of action from some of my fellow female colleagues. But I think I would tell my 25-year-old, still feel passionate, but don't take it so personally if people don't share the same, passion as you.
Okay, I've got one more question here from Mabel Chiang. Maybe Caecilia want to weigh in. Now, when a business has gone through accelerated growth, what are considerations, best practices, or flags to have in place to help decide if, hey, it's time to put on the brakes, right? To ensure that the business is fitted to grow sustainably or go with the momentum of growth.
When you find the momentum of growth, you can't stop it. So, and I think I have experienced both sides. When we launched in late 2018, 2019 was a golden year of travel. We were growing exponentially. And what I can share here is, you know, when the business just pouring in, you can't stop it. You know, of course,
Why would you, right?
why would you also? And 2020 comes around, there was the COVID-19, right? It was a pandemic. It, you know, travel come to a complete stop, and you know, the world changes, and we need to pivot and re-innovate ourselves. So so my short answer is, when your product actually finds product market fit, one, like Shufen said, why stop it? But also, I think the truth is you can't stop it. Actually, it will keep coming. And I think those are the moments that I hope you know, you are prepared to truly seize the opportunity, because that could be your opportunity for a lifetime.
And you agree with that, Shufen? Since you've had your business for 20 odd years.
Yeah, and I think we have, in my own, I mean, we're not a tech business, so it's not very easy to scale, right? It's all about finding the right partners. And I think there's a question in the chat about, is it easy to find co-founders and partners? It's not, but I think the reputation of the company and the business you build is incredibly important in attracting the right people that you want. And I think if I look back, I think that's something that we've done well at R3, like being very, I think, guarding our reputation very well, and you know, getting that kind of recognition for it. We attract very good people, but it doesn't mean that we get it right. We've made mistakes, and like everyone does, but I think you have to trust. You have to always, with any partnerships, and you have to start with trust. You can't start with, I mean, there's no other way, you know, but you need to put your guardrails to protect yourself. But I think when you venture into a new market, especially, you need to respect that each market has its own nuanced differences.
I'm just taking note of the time here. I just want to try and cover, because I know I didn't realize time was really going so fast. We're almost hitting the 11 o'clock mark. But I just want to take one last question from Angela Koo before we sort of do a summary. To all our speakers, who was your role model? And do you think you have broken the glass ceiling in your relevant industry? So perhaps you could just quickly go around the room. Caecilia, you want to start first?
So I think in technology is actually a industry that, in my view, a great gender equalizer. Because what we do, it's actually to build the product to make a promise to customers. And you know, when you actually have that piece of technology in your hand, it would either be it works or it doesn't work. It would be not no middle ground. And of course, you know, whether or not you are the man or woman who build it doesn't quite matter. So the way I look at it is technology is a great equalizer, and you know, it has never actually comes to mind that because of my own gender or how I was brought up or my nationality or whatnot has ever stopped me from delivering the product and the customer promise that we set out to do.
So who's your role model?
This is a tough one, and it keeps changing over time. Sometimes
it's okay to say me, myself, and I, though. Jen, you got a role model, your dad, or you know, someone in the family? I don't know.
I guess like my role models come from a lot of other business owners in the F&B, because I know how hard it could be to run a business, right? And when I see them, you know, successful, running it for like more than 5 years, up to 10 years, or having like multiple businesses, I'm always looking up to them and always being like, yeah, I want to be like that one day. I guess one like more like role model, if you want to put a name to it, right? Because I've dabbled both in media and also like F&B, I would say like Gordon Ramsay. I think that what he's doing here is really like almost legendary. Like he managed to take all grounds, like he covered all grounds in terms of marketing, which is all his media, and also all of his restaurants. So for the fact that he can handle like both sides is like just wow, like to me. And because I love media as well, it is.
Do you think you have broken the glass ceiling?
do you think he has improved?
Want to Shufen? You?
Me. I think I did because I started my own business in that way, but there's still other ceiling, right? Like I'll be, I think deluded if I don't think that in the global scale, where I'm not only female, but I'm Asian, there are hurdles. I don't think the ceilings are all broken there. There's more to fight there. And I think as for role model, I think my life role model as a person is my grandmother, whom I have so much admiration for as a person. She had nothing, but she's the most generous person. So I think that, and she's well remembered by a lot of people. I think from a work and passion to what you believe in, my all-time favorite role model heroine is Jane Goodall. And I know that a lot of corporates are talking about sustainability, where people are kind of hopefully taking sustainability and climate change seriously. I would encourage you to read her book, which is she's got some hopeful message for, I think, humanity. But her life's work is really something that, wow, amazing.
Okay, so I think I'm just being conscious of the time. We've hit the 11 o'clock mark, but I think just very, very quickly, just one piece of advice you have for aspiring entrepreneurs. 30 seconds. Let's start, Caecilia, Jen, and Shufen, quickly.
I think I've said it a few times. It's really have courage and keep going. It's easier said than done, but it could be done. So encourage everyone to have courage in your own journey, and wish you all the best.
Good. Jen?
Just persevere through the whole process. Smell the roses along the way. Enjoy your time. Make sure like you are happy at the end of the day. Don't do it if you're not happy. Yeah, there's no point. Yeah.
Shufen?
Well, I would just say embrace the uncertainty, of not whether you be successful or not, or whether you get paid or profitable. You have to be comfortable embracing that uncertainty. And if you still enjoy it after 1 year, then I think you're made to be an entrepreneur.
Thank you very much, ladies. I think that was a really meaningful, thoughtful, and a fruitful session. And I hope all our viewers out there also glean some insight into how to champion this entrepreneurial mindset. I just want to do a quick shout out for our next Women in Business webinar. It's our final one that's happening in October. On that note, it's 11:02 my watch. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to Executive Insights by Mediacorp. And thank you so much to our panelists for taking time up to speak with us today. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank
you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.